And it's a match that we're very much looking forward to. Look, in recent games, as results have started to falter, the same old conversations and questions have emerged about Jose Mourinho and his style of football. I'm just so interested from you three where he fits into a modern Premier League with a Thomas Tuchel and a Klopp and a Pep and a Brendan Rodgers and a Carlo Ancelotti.
I mean, he's one of the best. It's as simple as that. He's one of the best that's ever done it. I mean, are you kind of getting at, I suppose, what style of play?
It's a style thing, yeah.
Well, you know, if Jose was sat in his seat right now, he'd whip out every single one of his trophies and go, well, what have they won in comparison to what I've won? And we kind of had this discussion before. Like, don't get me wrong, I think from a player's point of view, there are elements of Jose's game, and, you know, Tottenham fans are going through it right now, that are really frustrating. You know, whether you're a part of it as a player, and probably, you know, Steve would probably be more, you know, educated to talk about that because he played under Jose. But there are other parts where you're kind of watching it from the outside where you think, you know, if I get on board with it and I grow as a player, then maybe, you know, those trophies will be there for me. And I just think the timing of Jose going to a club like Tottenham is just perfect. This club needs him
I think
more than anything right now.
Some of what you're judging him there on is past. Because I think we were talking off air, Steve, about the Chelsea team I played against was one of the hardest teams I've played against. And one thing they was defensive-minded. They always had 4 players at minimum looking to attack. Frank from midfield, the 3 strikers up the pitch, the 2 wide players, Duff and Robin, and then Drogba up top, pinning you back. And that's very different if you fast forward to the last few years.
Look at that defensive unit you had, though, that they had, Rio. You know, they had probably one of the best back fours in the Premier League history, you know, along with yours at United. So he spoke about it in his interview there. He had the foundations at those football clubs to be able to do that. At Tottenham, he's talking about the project, the process, because he knows that they're not there yet. So that's why they're having to play probably so defensively.
He's done the same thing at Inter Milan, counter-attack football.
He won the treble there.
But I'm saying to you, but his style of football, if we're talking about the style of football, winning, I understand, and I'll sit with you every day of the week saying that Mourinho, in terms of winning, has been relentless over the years. But if you look from probably his time at Manchester United and forward, the big trophies have not been there, and the style of football has been something. He spoke about parking the bus in this fixture, actually, a few years ago.
He won something at United, though. He won the Europa League at United.
It's not a big trophy.
It was what United were a part of. It was the biggest trophy United could win.
It's not the Premier League. What you associate Jose Mourinho with, the Premier League and the Champions League. That's what you associate him with.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, but ultimately, it's like what JJ's saying there, you've got to buy into it as a player. You look at Simeone at Atletico Madrid, then players buy into that philosophy. Now, we know, I think with Jose, he's a defence-minded coach. Klopp, Pep, you know, all these other ones that have evolved with football, they're more front-foot, attack-minded coaches. This is his bread and butter. This is what I do. If he's got players that will buy into that, then they'll be successful. But if they don't, then that's where it comes apart. When I was at Chelsea, yes, defensively sound.
Yeah.
But there was leaders. You know, Rio here, when you go to Old Trafford or at Stamford Bridge, Terry, Lampard, Essien, Drogba, Ballack, you know, had leaders in there. In training, people were smashing the hell out of each other. I remember Essien snapping Shevchenko in half. Tal Ben-Aim going through Drogba getting up saying, I want to kill him. And Jose saying, I need him on Saturday, you can kill him next week. The things like that. But he loved that, he thrived off that. I don't think he's getting that at the moment.
And I think that's where I sense the frustration in Jose Mourinho in recent years, in that he's trying to build teams like that. He walked into, I don't understand what you're saying, he walked into clubs where he had the foundations set there. And maybe he's been a victim of the clubs he's chosen, have been in clubs that are in huge need of transition and change. And is he getting that right? Is he had enough time to do that? You can look at it now, Harry Kane, his best player's injured.
It might also be personnel. You know, personnel, I always felt that Jose is the type of person where players kind of, they raise themselves to him, you know, they show themselves. So, like, you don't just pick captains, but captains are kind of, like, made by them raising their level of their game. A bit like what Højbjerg is doing for Tottenham right now. You look at Højbjerg and you think, he's a nailed-on captain soon, because he's one of his disciples. He's a leader for Jose. And maybe he's walked into a couple of clubs where the players have gone, no, I don't want to play that way. You know, I'm not going to be kind of going down your road. I play my way, which is more maybe of a Klopp or a Brendan Rodgers, or even, you know...
So has he handled them situations right?
I think if you go through the individuals, maybe not, and there may be some regrets in there. I think if you look at maybe like people like Rashford and Luke Shaw and the handling of those, it's not something I agree with. Pogba within that as well. I don't think that helped his cause at Manchester United at all. And he's going through it now with players like Dele, you know, and you look at a game like tonight or the game against Brighton, you know, would he need someone like Dele? Is he getting the best out of Gareth Bale? Is that you know, I'm not always saying it works for him, but that is what has worked for him in the past. Therefore, he stands by
I think
it.
that's what's so interesting. Like, it's not always a manager's fault. Sometimes players, we're talking about accountability in the green room. When are the players going to take accountability? And I'm sure if you spoke to Jose Mourinho, he'd sit there and say his time at Man United, he was looking for players to take accountability of their actions on that football pitch. And he was the one in the end who got the sack. But he would sit there and say, well, but they were at fault, they were going out and playing. I asked them to do something, they didn't implement it.
And that's not a squad of winners, by the way. There's not loads of trophies for those players to share out between them. He's the one that's there with the experience of the
Well,
trophies.
I was shocked when he come out in his post-match interview after Brighton, when he come out and kind of defended the players and said, you know, we showed positive signs in the second half. I didn't see anything positive against Brighton.
But
there's an element where
in the squad.
there's an element where you know the modern day footballer, they don't like the brutal truth. No, you've got to sort of tiptoe around them, and whether he's having to find that out or he's found out at United where if you are bullish, players fold and they'll just, you know, we were speaking earlier on about players now having a mindset that they'll see out managers. There's probably players at Spurs now thinking, I'm not really all for this, but I know if I've got a 3-year contract, I'll see my 3 years out before Jose goes.
So interesting. And final question, if he wins a trophy in his time as the Tottenham boss, then Project Mourinho is a success from a Spurs perspective, right?
100%.
100%.